Hi, welcome back. Now, travel restrictions to contain the spread of coronavirus have dealt a devastating blow to the tourism industry. Now, in an attempt to save Europe's very hard-hit tourism sector, the EU has set out plans for a phased reopening of borders across the bloc.
Now, will member states agree to work together to lift restrictions? Could the summer holidays abroad be saved? And what will the future travel look like in the age of COVID-19? We're joined now by travel expert Eoghan Corry, who hopes, well, we hope he has all the answers. Good morning to you.
Morning, Eoghan.
How are you?
Good morning, Alan.
Two things coming out of the European Commission yesterday. One, that which I was a bit surprised about because we're all being told about social distancing, and now we can all get onto a packed plane.
Apparently, so the middle seat, which was being touted, has been rejected by the EU Commission to the relief of the airlines, who told us the whole economic model of low-cost flying in particular would go out the window if this was the case. The reality is aircraft are pretty good places to be. The air filtering system is really state-of-the-art. 30 times an hour it gets renewed. And most of what would happen if you were socially distancing on the aircraft, even if that was feasible, would all go end when you were getting on board or coming off as well. And I think a lot of the action will be in what happens in the airports, Alan.
But would you, as a seasoned traveller, would you get on a packed plane now with like jammers the way it is? Like, do you actually see that people will travel to the same extent at the moment?
Without hesitation, I would do it myself, because what they're talking about is putting in checks and measures to make sure nobody on that aircraft is showing the symptoms that would spread coronavirus. The big question, though, is more important with the public in general. What we've seen this week is really a little bit of a toe in the water, particularly by Ryanair, to say, what is the appetite for travel? We don't know what it is. We don't know, is it resistant to what is going to happen next, which is going to be the mother of all seat sales. Terrific prices being put on the market. They're of no use unless confidence returns to the general public that they're prepared to get on an aircraft.
But Eoghan, there was a number of caveats, were there not, within that package that was announced by the European Commission in terms of infection rates, in terms of the spread of this virus. I mean, it's not just lift everything, off we go, pack your bags.
We need a run of luck, Ciara. We really need Ireland to stay safe and to unlock in a measured, organised way. And we also need somewhere that we want to go on holidays to unlock in a measured way. There are plans in place for all the member states. What we saw yesterday was some sort of attempt to bring coordination on this, because when the virus arrived, all that notion about open borders and coordinated response went out the windows. So the last thing we need is 27 different states and 27 different aviation authorities all making up their own rules. There's a really good chance that particularly the Canary Islands, where the infection rate is much lower than mainland Spain, will unlock in a coherent manner. And of course, we have our own plan in Ireland, and we're hoping all goes well with that.
So, Eoghan, I was thinking of the Canaries, say, October, November. So do you think that's a safe bet? And for people thinking of the Canaries for a winter sun destination, that might be a goer?
Safe bet is probably overstating it, but it's the most likely of the scenarios coming up. I'll tell you why. Lanzarote is the Irish favourite. It's the one more so than Gran Canaria, unlike other markets. That's one of the lowest infection rates in the whole Spanish, under the Spanish government, and Fuerteventura as well. Gran Canaria a little bit higher, Tenerife a little bit higher again. They're already moved into phase one. They're hoping to accelerate a jump into phase two and go through the 4 phases of the Spanish unlocking. But it's all very complicated, because what seems to have happened in the last few days is different governments have talked about 14-day quarantine periods. A little bit of a surprise. Spain is going to introduce one of those on Friday, and we don't know how long it'll stay in place. But from what happened yesterday and what different member states are saying, because the Commission is saying one thing, the member states are saying another, it's a bit confusing. But it does look from June the 14th, people will start examining campaigns calming down, saying we're through most of the phases. And as you say, September is a very good time to think of travelling. Michael O'Leary said on Tuesday he's going to put 40% of his fleet in the sky for July. What he did not say publicly is that he intends to get that up to 60% in August and 80% in September. We need a run of luck for this, and we need all the health authorities to be happy and the politicians. But that is quite possible from where we're looking this morning.
But we've been told, I suppose, time and time again that the Irish authorities and even the health authorities' approach to COVID-19 has been quite cautious, I think, in terms of the easing of a restriction. So what's the Irish government's position and NFET's position when it comes to people going abroad but coming back into Ireland? Are we all going to have to quarantine for 14 days in our own homes?
Yes, Ciara, the last thing the Irish government, they're trying to keep people from getting carried away and abandoning all the progress that's been made in the last few days. It was a bit of a nightmare to have a CEO of Ryanair coming on the airwaves and saying, let's all get travelling again in July. They've been quick to throw cold water on that. Simon Harris tweeted yesterday. Leo Varadkar tweeted, don't even think about foreign travel. And Simon Harris has said, quarantine on return for 2 weeks still applies. That means a 2-week holiday turns into a 4-week holiday. The scenarios I'm talking about this morning are after the lifting of that, with the 14-day quarantine period. Everyone is looking at a mid-July, June 15, or mid-June 15th, June 24, different dates for different countries. But the politicians can't say anything like that because they've enough trouble trying to keep the measures we currently have in place and stop people travelling madly even within Ireland.
So is that something, sorry, Alan, is that something then that the Irish government, you say, are considering, that they will abandon that idea that you have to quarantine after sort of a date in the middle of June?
No, not something that they'll abandon. It's something that each of the governments that are introducing it have to set an exit date. There's no problem with an entry strategy for this, but we need a coordinated exit strategy from this 14-day quarantine, mandatory quarantine. It came late in the game. It's only emerged in the last 2 or 3 weeks. The Brits brought one in, very high profile on Monday, as I say, very relevant to Ireland and holidays. Spain is bringing one in on Friday. That could actually mess up the return date. But what the plea from the European Commission yesterday, and the European Commission are fighting a little bit with both the Parliament and the Member States on this, but one of the things that came out of that huge 500-page document is that we need some sort of coordinated exit strategy from the lockdown measures that enables travel to keep going again in a coherent manner, and one that doesn't roll back the progress that's being made by the health authorities all through Europe.
I know in another from the Commission yesterday, good news for consumers, that we are entitled to a full refund on cancelled flights and you don't have to accept a voucher.
Pretty much the EU 261 stands. That's what the Commission line has been all along. But 13 of the member states, including Ireland, have said this is it's not really feasible. Events have overtaken the legislation. We all know that every single airline, even the well-funded airlines, would come under pressure, and most of them would be bankrupted by the level of repayments. To give an example, the Irish airline Ryanair had 10 million refunds to process last month in April, and the longer this goes on, that goes up to 25, 30, 40 million. The bill being faced by Lufthansa is 2.5 billion euro. Ryanair's bill, they've loads of cash, they can meet it, is about 700, 800 million. The real problem here is that while you can get a date change or a voucher through by a computer operation, when it comes to a refund, an auditor has to look at it, money laundering regulations apply, a human has to intervene, and there aren't enough humans working for Europe's airlines to process the level of refunds. And a separate problem for travel agents, no money coming in. The money's already been passed on to cruise lines, to theme parks, to airlines, and the customers are looking for their money back. The Irish regulation came in on Friday. It means 6 months. At the end of 6 months, you're entitled to your refund. EU Commission said yesterday 12 months. But I do think there's still a little bit of haggling to go on. The EU Commission is taking a very hard line on this, and the member states not so hard a line.
It was interesting to hear the Taoiseach speaking yesterday. He seemed to be saying to people, look, if you can afford to take the voucher,
take it.
Take the voucher. Otherwise, we're going to see travel agencies,
Close down.
Airlines close down.
We've lost 4 travel agents. I'm surprised that the others have managed to come through. And the only reason is that if the refund within 14 days, which was implemented in a harsh manner, it would close every travel agency in the country. What the Taoiseach said yesterday is, give a little bit of time, everybody will get sorted out in the end, but we're facing something for which the legislation was not designed.
And sure, look, Eoghan, the weather's beautiful here in Ireland.
Yeah.
Another couple of weeks we'll be able to travel beyond our 20 kilometres and hopefully enjoy some staycations and support our own tourism industry at home. Yeah. I'm sure they could do with
thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it.
All's not lost, Alan. You might get on a plane yet.
Might get on a plane, but you know what? I'm with you. I think staycations and help our home industry, our home tourism, be great.
Yeah, and look at this weather. Sure. Where else would you want to be? Now, let's take a break. Join us for lots more Ireland AM shortly.